talk about glazing in a bit too. Pop these old points out.
Now, why take them out?
Because I'm going to show you how to reglaze the window.
I reglaze them with the old points in, so.
He likes to backbend it.
We're going to assume that this glass is broken, and it has to come out. Or, like I said, the window might be in good shape, but so much of the glazing did come out where you want to like seal it correctly and backbend it.
And does the original glazing, that would have lead in it as well?
No,
No?
no, I've never heard that.
But the paint covering it would, so.
Yeah, the paint covering it most likely did have that. The glazing compounds tend to be linseed oil and lime, some combination of like, you know, I'm sure proprietary things. The traditional stuff, I know that we did a workshop where we tried different glazing compounds, and honestly, they all acted different, and they were all just different. They were all fine though. They seemed good. I like this one because you can get it anywhere. And this stuff is pretty close to what the traditional stuff was. I think it's some combination of linseed oil and lime and some kind of like proprietary fancy stuff that they use. But it just works and you can get it everywhere. They tend to be different consistencies wherever you get it. So I've gotten used to this. I've gotten used to working with it. So because I can get it everywhere, I just don't fight it. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel by using some better brand. It works fine. The only thing though, DAP also makes a latex glazing compound. Don't use it. I think there's a dumpster out back in front somewhere. Just throw that stuff away. You've wasted your money. Just don't use it. It's not going to last. It's not historically accurate, and it's not designed for that. And it just, this stuff is a pain to use. It takes too long to dry. Latex, don't buy into it. It's not going to make it better.
So you're kneading it up, is that just because you have a minute to spare, or is that, do you need to do that?
Yes and no. I do need to do this. You'll buy this stuff, open it up for the first time, and it's either too runny, it's got oil on top and it's too thin, it's just supposed to like fall, or it's too thick and chalky and cakey, it's just nasty. I usually have like a couple of these kicking around, and if this one's too stiff and that one's too loose, I'll mix the two together, or even just like if it's too hard, and I think this stuff down here is like pretty hard. I'll just kind of like work in the loose stuff with the other stuff, and I like this consistency. So if we're just shooting the breeze, I'll just be here kneading it, because I'm killing two purposes here. We're talking about the weather and, you know, how the kids are doing and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I'm also, at the end of the conversation, I'm gonna put some good, some glazing putty. This rabbited area, what I like to do, and it's super traditional, is just take one of these little cheap brushes. I buy boxes of these and use them for everything, with some linseed oil. And you want to linseed oil that rabbit. This is called a rabbit. This stuff is made with linseed oil. Linseed oil bonds with the wood, and so this is kind of going to give you a super traditional but really great bond with the wood. It's going to give you a seal and a bond. It's a good way. They had it figured out a long time ago, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
So don't paint that channel.
Don't paint that channel. What's going to happen when you paint that channel? It's going to last less long. You're not actually increasing the life of anything with painting that. Just the opposite. Things will separate because you sealed it with a different product. There is, I think there's another glass or window person in town who's been doing this a long time, who likes to use silicone in there. And also there's a glass company that, I think most glass companies, you know, like I'll get some glass cut just because it's easier. And they'll say, hey, do you want me to backbend it for you? And I'll say, no, I'm going to use putty. And they're like, oh, that's better. Because they'll put silicone in there too. It's a lot faster. But you're introducing a different thing, and it's not. I like the linseed oil and this stuff on there, and encapsulating everything with the same compound that's going to bond with the wood. It just makes a lot more sense.
But you gotta come back and replace the glass again, and it's silicone in there, you're gonna
It's a
jackhammer.
Yeah, it's a pain, yeah. So I just tend to make a little rope,
Oh, wow.
and this is just the way I do it. And it's not rocket science, but just gets it in there and I'll squeeze it all out.
I get my kids to do this. You gotta love this part.
Oh, except they'll make a mess, because it'll drop all over the place, it'll stick to everything, and, yeah. If you've done it too much, you can make it look easy, but this stuff gets everywhere and it's a pain. For real people. So this is a perfectly clean piece of glass.
Visualize this.
I know I have low standards, but this is a pretty clean piece of glass.
Over 332nd?
We've had this conversation a bunch of times too.
Sorry.
This is what they call single strength. And let's just talk about glass real quick, and then we'll get into cutting it after. Actually, let's talk glass all the way around once we get this all the way in. This is a tricky part, especially on a bigger window. You want to put pressure on there to kind of push that in and squeeze out that glazing compound. The tricky thing, never put pressure in the center. Obvious bad things will happen. You'll end up throwing tools and swearing. And I tend to just do a little bit at a time, evenly everywhere. And then eventually you'll feel it starts to evenly bottom out everywhere. And that's kind of where you want to be. You don't need to have it completely down there, because you do want to kind of have a little bit all the way around, but you want to be pretty close where you don't see that white edge on the inside, especially if you have stained grade windows. So that feels pretty good. It also looks even and consistent. I like it. I'm going to grab some points from over here. Instead of reusing the 12 ones. Let's see if I can find where I put it. Yeah, here we go. Oh, and one other thing while I'm thinking about this, that I forgot to mention. If your window stops, you pull your nails out, and you have a couple nails in your parting beads. When you're putting that back on, and we do put the window back together, I'll drive this home some more. You don't want to have longer nails than what you need. Your jamb is 3/4 of an inch. Your window stop is 3/4 of an inch. You don't want to put 2-inch nails in there, because it's going to cause a problem from the other direction of your ropes and everything hitting that. So you don't want to do that. And these are the types of points I like to use. If you go to a hardware store and you'll see the triangle ones, those work too. I like these, you might just need to look there, because they have that little shoulder and they're easier to press in. They make types, they make guns where a lot of window places have the guns where it just pops them in there. This process is pretty straightforward. Even if you're doing a lot of windows and you're doing big windows, you don't need a gun. It's just one more tool that you don't need. And about that far apart, depending on how big your window sash is. A window sash like that, I'd probably put 2 on each leg. This window, I would just do 1 on each leg in about the center. And really, you just want enough in there to hold the glass in place. Assuming that everything starts to fall apart and the outlet glazing chips out, the glass is still staying in place if you've got the window points in there. There are some circumstances that I've seen where they didn't put any points in, and they didn't paint things well, and they also painted the channel and then glazed it, so all the glazing's popping off, and you can slam a door and the window just, window glass just pops up. It's happened.
How many points do you recommend putting in? Is there every 6 inches or
I was saying
per
about
window?
that far apart for the most part. So if I was doing a window that size, I would do 2 on each leg, evenly spaced for the most part. You can use math, you can measure it and all that kind of stuff. I've seen other windows where it's been about that, old ones, and I just try to follow that. I've seen people try to go overboard and put too many points in, this far apart. maddening, because you really don't need that, and it's harder to pull out the glass. You're better off just breaking the glass and starting over. Now with these points, because it has that little shoulder on it, I'll try to wiggle it and just try to get it to where it presses up against firmly up against your window piece, and then it should be good. Now, I'll put the points in before I flip it over. And I've done it the other way because I was going too fast not thinking, and you know what happens. But this is when, just clean up that edge, and you want to clean up this edge before you glaze the other side, because you want to see this edge. And honestly, this is the part where I won't go too crazy cleaning up this edge, because I'll be back. I clean both sides like at different stages many, many times. So, and that's what we're looking like there. So, kids doing okay? Same kind of thing with a little bit bigger of a rope, because we're putting more in there. And really just try to press it in pretty close to that 45-degree bend that we want. It's just going to make it a little bit easier, but it's not crucial. You just really want to get it in there. And if you've never done this, it doesn't go this fast.
Yeah.
Time and rank.
Yeah, a lot of NPR shows and a lot of cups of coffee.
Yeah.
And a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Just a regular, flexible putty knife is what works. And I really can't stress this enough. Having a good work surface is nice, but ergonomics when you're glazing makes all the difference, because you really do have to you have to be at a 45-degree angle just right, and you really want to stay consistent.
I mean, there are tools for this, right? You can buy a $25 tool for this.
They don't work as well. I haven't had as much luck with them. Some people, and I haven't met too many other window nerds that have had luck with them either. They're like, yeah, putty knife works fine. I don't know. You can try. You can spend $25 and swear that it's the best thing. This works for me. This is the way that I do it, so I'll keep doing this. I'll kind of know about where that inside rabbet is, that edge. You want to cut your line to where you've got that rabbeted edge, right? You want to have your glazing be just inside of that line, just a pinch. You want to just see that edge. Reason being is when you prime and paint it, you want to roll your primer and paint just over that edge. You get a better seal. And you want to have it be right on that edge to where you don't see it from the inside out. That sounds great, perfect world. I've done a lot of this, and you can never make it perfect. You can never make it perfect. You can strive to make it perfect. That's the best we can do. You can do a sloppy job and it will function perfectly, or you can do a really beautiful looking job that won't function as well. You know, what are you going to be able to live with at the end of the day? Yeah, but if you understand the concept, that goes a long way, where you really want to just like have it just inside that edge and have your paint and primer just over that edge. I tend to err on the light side with my primer, so the paint can go over that edge a little bit more, and I can really just try to ride that edge. And I can be sloppier with my primer and then clean up the primer right up to that edge, get that edge where I want it to be, and then slop the paint over a little bit to where it looks really good and it functions. That's some really, really nerdy stuff that does make a difference.
Do you use tape for that painting, or you do it by hand?
I never use tape because I don't trust the edge. That's one circumstance where I'd rather have, if you're using a brush and you roll over, you're going to get a better seal up against the glass. If you have paint or a tape and you pull up the tape, you're going to have that jagged edge and you don't know what's actually sealing. And keep in mind, we are splitting hairs. Now see, this looks pretty good over here. You can't see up close, but I'll just come back through it and just kind of know that I should just come in just a little bit more and that's gonna be even better, more consistent. And I'll also take my putty knife and follow that and try to clean the edge up going this way. Take my finger, one little swipe, just to kind of like make sure it's rested against that edge, but not, you don't wanna indent it too much.
You're making this look too easy.
I've done too many of them.
Yeah.
I feel like an hour and 3/4 at this point.
How many times do you
Well,
re-putty and?
Talk about the 10th window.
I just recently made a series of 8-foot tall casement windows for a building in Old Sacramento, like made them from scratch. And they were like 6 light casement windows, so I made like 8 of those things. And that's just one project that's recent. That's a lot of glazing.
Yeah.
So you get faster.
Are you up on a ladder?
Oh, no, I made them in the shop and then I put them in.
What wood did you use?
Clear vertical grain Doug fir. Actually, the oval window that I just made for the Stanford mansion, I had leftover wood, so I used that for that.
Do you have any tips for getting a clean edge on that corner? Because I went back and forth so many times trying to get
Oh,
that
yeah.
perfect. Well, is it just practice? Do you have any tips for that?
Well, what I do in this circumstance is I've got that edge, I just kind of like try to go back into it. And the more you go into it, the uglier it's gonna get. So it has to be pretty good from the get-go. You wanna, I don't know if you're Zen Buddhist, if you drink tea, you know, whatever it takes to try to get you in the right mindset, just kind of, you know, work it out.
Having a sharp scraper too, I'm sure helps.
Um,
Or is that maybe not so much a factor for this part of it?
It helps. Actually, what really helps with me is having the edges clean.
Oh, okay, right.
And
It's free to
Yeah,
debris
and even if it's a little rounded on the corners, it doesn't matter as much, and I've used this one for stripping too, and so it's been through the ringer. But I just always like, take like a little razor blade scraper and
Right. But at least it's just consistent on the surface, right? Or the
yeah,
edge, yeah.
and sometimes you get some weird edges where it like always causes problems, and then you just get a new one of these, because it's only $8, just, you know, set up.
And then just don't even mess with plastic ones then
Oh,
probably.
God, no. Yeah. The metal ones are gonna last longer and be more consistent. Even if you're doing one, you probably won't turn out well. You can tell yourself that anyway. And what are you really gonna say?
$5.
Another rule of thumb, and you can kind of see as I'm doing this, it's not perfect. And we're staring at it up close. If you try to go back and keep messing with it and make it perfect, you're gonna mess it up, it's gonna get worse. But if you get, it's not about being perfect, it's about the illusion of being perfect. When you're looking at it on your house, you're not gonna see it.
It looks great from here, so. For
Yeah.
example,
You know, if it was up on a house, it would look perfect.
right.
And the older you get, the worse your eyesight.
Absolutely.
Years ago, that's still
And if you're at the point where you're using your reading glasses to do this, you're not gonna see it when you're bringing it in your groceries.
How much less do you measure the glass for the casing over?
Oh, the clearance you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
I tend not to think about it because almost every window is 1 3/8 thick. 98% of it on normal windows. Single strength glass is about 1/8 of an inch. So it's been that way for 100 years, that angle. It ends up being about the same.
No, I meant the length of the size of the glass
Oh.
into the hole.
We'll talk about it when we cut it, yeah. I do think about that a lot. So, anyway, I would call that good enough. And a couple things about this. Do not,
There's a couple more.
yeah, thanks. Do not try to clean the glass at this point. Even if you put the window sash on your house, do not clean that glass. This stuff, I think they say a week. It's not a week. It depends on the time of year. It depends on, you know, if it's inside or outside, humidity, temperature, everything.
Like a day like today, how long would you?
A day like today, sitting inside my shop, I plan on like 2 weeks, maybe 3. Middle of summer, week. Middle of winter, give it a month or more. I'd check in a month.
Is there any problem, could you just put that straight up on the outside of the house in sun? Would it damage the?
It wouldn't damage anything. In fact, it would make it skin over faster, which can be your advantage.
Okay.
The trick is, if you take this and you put it on your house, and then you get lazy and you never paint it again, that's gonna start to peel away faster. And really what happens is you start to get the crack between your window glazing and your window. Because we're gonna assume this is an old sash and it's starting to get paint on it, protecting it. And that gap where water gets in there is gonna start rotting things out and causing problems. So that's what you wanna avoid. Actually, a friend of mine had, somebody broke a piece of glass and I said, let me just come fix it because, you know, you're a friend and you know, if you hire somebody, it's gonna be a mess, it's gonna be too expensive, let me just do it. So I went over there and did it. Took me no time at all, I had the glass and they were happy. And I said, come back in 3 weeks to a month and put some oil-based primer on there and then put some paint on there. And they said, okay. Well, they sold the house like a couple months later. And I drive by that house now and it's still not painted. But the new people don't have my number, I don't know. Another thing is that even once it skins over, and they say that when it skins over, you can prime it. You have to use oil-based primer. You have to use oil-based primer. You cannot use anything else besides oil-based primer. If you do, it'll just bubble. This stuff is off-gassing that, that linseed oil, and if you seal that up with anything besides oil, it's gonna bubble. It's not gonna work. If you do oil-based primer, that's got linseed oil in it too, and it all kind of breathes and works the same. And, you know, kind of see how fast, if you put the primer on and it actually goes on, and then it still looks a little wet for longer than over in here, don't paint it right away. Just let it, like, to where it's all has the same kind of dead sheen. It's fussy, but it's the way you gotta do it. And if you do it that way, it's gonna last for a long, long time. Any questions? So, next we'll cut some
I'm
glass.
sorry. So when did you put the linseed on? Before you put the...
When the, let me grab my little sample here. So basically, you want to have it, this is what the rabbit is. So you just want to put it on that whole inside edge.
Okay.
And you'll slop a little up there, slop a little there. It's fine. Just